okay? I am back for the final video. I have been reviewing A Snake Falls to Earth by Darcie Little Badger, and in the last video I talked about the theme and gave a really short book review. I loved it. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. But in this video I'm going to be just sharing what this book really made me reflect on when it comes to practice and being an artist and that role within society. So while reading this book, I couldn't help but to really think about the role of the artist as story and archiver. Not everyone may identify with that within their practice, but in reality, we are all connected by a shared history, a shared present, and a shared future. Seeking to understand lineage and by moving from a place of deep reverence, we better understand what it is that, especially as BIPOC artists, that we must protect, that we must share, and the ways that our individual values are informed by collective history. And it also made me think a lot about community. I think that within the arts, the idea of making can be very isolated or presented as a very isolated experience. But even within that isolation, there's a way that we're all weaving together, capturing our present that someday will become a history that others uncover. And I know for myself, community has been a huge influence in pushing me forward and expanding my perception, my understanding. And when I say expansion, I really mean like an expansion of aesthetic knowledge, an expansion of thought work, and the things that I understand about the reality, the ways that I'm navigating. All of that is a really shared experience, and it's really hard to honestly blur the lines of an individual pedagogy or an individual philosophy, because the people I love and that hold dear, and that the people that I don't even know that I've interacted with have poured into this understanding. And it doesn't just come from other artists, it just comes from anybody in my life that I've interacted with. And it also makes me think about like accountability in that sense, how even the smallest actions or the things that I choose to present as a story, it does have impact on other people. That may not even be an impact that I even recognize as a possibility. And I think it's important not to be necessarily bogged down by that pressure of accountability. But when you're moving with respect and just a deep understanding and appreciation for the things around you, there will be just like an inherent like system of accountability and checks and balances that come into play when you're thinking about the impact of your work. Another thing I thought about is this idea of coming into age or coming to age. This is something that we usually see with the narratives that is expressed around the teenage years, but I think that artists themselves have coming to age moments within their practice that can happen at any point, where you are really coming into coming into a confidence about who you are, why you're making work, and what your practice really is about. And that can also feel like a very isolated experience, but this book was a reminder that even that can be collective, and it honestly takes a lot of the pressure off of having to figure that stuff out for yourself, or having to feel like you have to have the most original stance in the world, when in reality it really is just about you anchoring down into an assurity that you are who you are, and you're moving with the values that fuel you, that inspire you, and that pour back into you. And finally, one of the things that I thought about was just this idea of hope. I remember in graduate school, one of my classmates who was not from the United States, they just turned to me and commented that we're so obsessed with the end of days in this country. And I'm not gonna lie, I chuckled because I was like, dang, that's very interesting and also very spot also very spot on. And there's a way that at least for me, I felt like there's a way that things can just feel so heavy, can just feel so hopeless, but there really is hope. And I think the beautiful thing about this narrative is that like that hope wasn't contingent on some grand scale to save the day. And when I mean grand, it wasn't contingent on them stopping climate change altogether. The hope was contingent on them just saving the person that they love. And I think that that is such a beautiful way and ties back into the idea of like small exits. It makes me wonder through aesthetics and practicality, the small ways that we as artists can thread in the hope that we see in the world, can thread in the love that pushes us to seek that hope into the stories that we're presenting through our work to the public. So that was a book review of A Snake Falls to Earth by Darcie Little Badger. I hope you enjoyed. I really loved reading this book. I'm on to the next book, and we'll share more when I have the time to, or when this feels appropriate again. But there are so many beautiful books that have informed Exodus, and I can't wait to share more fiction with y'all. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you for the continued support. I hope wherever you are, you're finding time to sow love into your practice and finding time to center joy and play and experimentation, and finding time to also read a good work of fiction.